Okay, so this is part one of the MIP 410 restoration project. So it's been a while since I worked on this because I've had some other projects going on, but I figured this would be an appropriate time to get started. Basically what I did was I tore down the entire chassis that I showed you guys in the overview video, and I just basically took what I needed from it, which only really amounts to the MIP parts. So you have the MIP 410 steering knuckle and caster block. These I'm actually putting aside for the SP2 restoration. It's a chain drive kit that I also have. I'm going to use these for that, so those are getting put aside. The belt guide, probably going to put that aside, and the bell crank. This particular steering rack I will likely put aside for another build, because this is designed for the standard RC10 front nose. And because you have this gearbox also inside the front nose, the steering rack has to be a little bit shorter in its length. But since I'm going to be using a Worlds type front end, which is longer, I should have more space to fit a standard rack. So we'll see what happens with this. I may have to use this anyway because of how the steering geometry may be affected with the types of steering knuckles I'm using, but we'll see how that goes. Basically, all I really needed from the chassis is the front gearbox and the rear idler and output pulley assembly. So if we start with this, this particular output pulley is, I think, one of the later versions of the 410 build, which came with like a slipper pads. So there was a slipper pad that goes, maybe it's a little hard to see because the camera's not focusing, but there's an actual plate on the other side of this, on the left side of this pulley here. It's not just a pulley. So if I pull this pulley out, there's a plate here. There's a slipper pad that goes there, and also one that goes between the other side of the pulley and like a washer, a big fat washer. This is missing those slipper pads, but I think I can recreate those with a standard associated high torque slipper pad. Might be the right size, and I could just cut it out. It's also missing the spring washer that I would need to actually tighten down that slipper pad. So I'll have to figure out how to deal with that. I have a few ideas there. The front gearbox is pretty straightforward. It's just two gears. You have the output pulley that feeds into a input shaft here, and then you have the differential, and that's it. The differential isn't a conventional ball diff or even a gear diff. It's basically two one-way ball bearings, one on either side. And the way it works is you have this little insert here, which is like a housing that contains 4 roller pins. And those insert into the center of the diff, and there's one of these on either side. So this is the one that goes on this side, and then I have the other one on this side here. Now those roller pins roll against this asymmetrically shaped assembly here on the shaft. I really wish the camera would focus better here, but basically you have these sort of 4 notches coming out of this shaft, and they're sort of curved off in one direction. So that allows the roller pins to roll against them in one direction, but not the other direction. And that's how you get one-way action. But these guys, I think these little notches might be a little worn, and that could explain why one of them, I can't remember which one, when I was playing around with it when I just got the kit, it wasn't completely locking up in the locked rotational direction. So I'm just trying to rebuild it and clean it all up and put it back together. Hopefully it's good enough to use, because these little pieces are impossible to find. So we'll see. It's going to be a shelf queen anyway. It's not a runner, so I don't think it's a big deal. But that's it for the front gearbox. I should also point out that the front and rear pulleys mount onto a tapered shaft. So you have this taper in the output shaft, okay, and you really just jam the pulley in there, and then you thread a screw, a 440 screw, into this to sort of lock the pulley in place. And it's very similar with this pulley, except you have a nut holding it down rather than, actually no, you do also have a screw. So all that means is if you need to get it out, it's kind of a pain if it's stuck in there. This is very similar to like the old Kyosho lasers and the old Schumacher cats, where the actual wheel hexes mounted onto a tapered wheel axle. It's very similar with these pulleys. So that's kind of where I am right now. I'm just going to finish the front gearbox here and then get started with the front end of the build. Since I'm using a Worlds front end and I have a taller Worlds shock tower, I have to custom cut that tower to accommodate this gearbox. So I'll have some a video of that later on when I complete that. But this is what I have for now, and yeah, so thanks for watching.